Hey everyone, how's it going? I thought today I would do a tag video. And this is a tag that has kind of fallen off the radar. It was created back in 2018 by Adam from Memento Mori, who doesn't really make videos anymore, unfortunately, but he made this tag as kind of a complement to the mid-year book freakout tag, which obviously is a mid-year sort of check-in on your reading. And this is supposed to be the kind of version of that tag for the end of the year, where you kind of answer some general questions about your reading for the year, take stock of the reading year. And I love this tag, and I thought that I would revive it and put it on people's radar again to see if maybe they wanted to do it at the end of this year, 2021. So the first question is what's the longest book you've read this year, and what's the book that took you the longest to finish? And I actually haven't read a ton of very long books this year. I did start off the year by finishing David Copperfield by Charles Dickens and Middlemarch by George Eliot, both of which were really good. Middlemarch was phenomenal. David Copperfield was enjoyable. But those feel to me more like 2020 books because I read most of both of them in 2020 and just kind of read the last 100 or so pages of both of them in 2021. So I feel like putting them would be sort of cheating. So the book really that is the longest book I've read this year, and I actually haven't finished it as of this recording, but I'm going to finish it, and it's also been taking me a long time, is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is a reread for me, actually. But, I mean, the book is 1,000 pages long, and I started it in September, I believe, and it's now, as of this recording, it's November, but it'll be December by the time it's posted, and by the time it's posted, I'm guessing I still will not have finished it. So it took me, a solid 3 months to read. So, longest book and the book that took me the longest are the same book, The Lord of the Rings. Number 2, a book you read in 2018 in 2021. The question says 2018 because the tag is from 2018, but it's obviously 2021 now. But a book you read that was outside of your comfort zone. And I am putting for this The Nature Fix by Florence Williams. This is kind of sort of a self-help book, kind of sort of science writing about the health benefits of being in nature. And she just talks about various ways of going out into nature, sort of dipping your toe and just going a walk in the park, going out on hikes, going on long trips, and then she talks about some ways that nature is being used for like therapy, for like having people who are mentally ill going into nature to help them get better, and even school programs that have children spend a lot of time in nature as a way of helping them. And this is outside of my comfort zone because this kind of self-help pop science kind of stuff is not my jam. Probably because I am in academia in a STEM field myself, so I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of pop science writing. But this I thought was a really solid book. It was really enjoyable. I buddy read it with Karen Evans. It was really enjoyable, really well written, really engaging, really fun at times. And if what I've described sounds interesting, then give it a try. Number 3 is how many books did you reread in 2021? And I will have reread by the end of this year at least 16 if we count The Lord of the Rings, which again, as of this recording and as of the posting, I'm guessing I have not yet finished, but I will. 16 rereads this year. And that is a pretty strong reread year for me. So I'm very happy with that. I usually do reread several books in a year, but not that many usually, so I'm quite pleased with that. Rereading is always a lot of fun because it, for me, feels like coming home, right? It feels like comfort to reread something, but you also always find new things in the books you reread. You always see them in a new light when you reread them, if they're good. If they're bad, then they might deteriorate on a reread, but yeah, that's a great reread year, so I'm very pleased with that. Number 4 is your favorite reread of the year. And I have to say The Lord of the Rings. It's just been great rediscovering my passion for Tolkien. I used to be such a Tolkien addict, and I still love him, but I'm just not quite the fanatic that I used to be, and it's just been fun nerding out again over the Lord of the Rings and re-experiencing the story and Tolkien's writing, which is great. It's just been so fun. I also reread The Hobbit this year, and that was also a lot of fun. And so I just had a pleasure revisiting Tolkien, and I think next year I will have to cap it all off by rereading The Silmarillion, which may involve my posting a video all about The Silmarillion. So prepare yourselves, you people who don't like The Silmarillion, because I will be posting what will probably be a long video about The Silmarillion next year, so prepare yourselves. But because I've already talked about The Lord of the Rings earlier in this video and in some other videos, I thought that I would also give a shout out to Citizen by Claudia Rankine, which is sort of a collection of essays, sort of a collection of prose poems, and also some non-prose poems, and a book that is kind of unclassifiable because it also has sort of some like art in it, some photos and some art, so it has this kind of multimedia aspect to it, and also because it combines sort of essay with prose with flash fiction. It is kind of unclassifiable, but I had read this in college and really liked it, but then I read it this year and it just blew my mind, right? Like I said earlier, when you reread a book, you just see new things in it, and I feel like much as I liked it the first time, there was just a lot that I didn't see on that first read that just blew my mind this time around. And yeah, it's such a fabulous collection of poetry. I think of it as a collection of poetry rather than a collection of essays, even though there are prose essays in it. But it's fantastic. Moving on to number 5, a book you read for the first time in 2021 that you look forward to rereading in the future. I'm doing one fiction and one non-fiction for this because I couldn't decide on one of them. So for non-fiction, that is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke, which I buddy read with Aaron Facer, and which was just fantastic. It just had so much wisdom, so much great life advice, so much great commentary on art and the role that art plays in our lives, and being an artist, which is something that I love reading about, even though I myself am not, a creative person really. And just some lovely passages, and commentary on religion as well, actually, which I wasn't expecting. And I just think it's a book that I will revisit for comfort, really. When I need some wisdom in my life, I think I will revisit Letters to a Young Poet. And the other one is fiction, and this is Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey, which I read as a part of the read-along that was hosted by Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse. And I just can't wait to revisit this because the writing in it is so rich. It just has so many layers, the writing. There's so many subtleties. And Peter Carey, as Jason said in one of his videos on the book, Peter Carey is so mischievous with language. And I think that will come out much more on a reread than it did on my first time. It's just a fantastic story as well. So, yeah, Oscar and Lucinda. Number 6 is favorite single short story or novella that you read in the year. I didn't read any short story collections, so I can't really give an answer for that. And the only novella I read was a reread, and that was Haji Murad by Leo Tolstoy. So I suppose you could say that that's my default answer because it's the only one I read, but Haji Murad is phenomenal. It is a perfect book, so it is absolutely worthy of being the answer to this question. But it is a reread, so it feels like a little bit of an anticlimax. But I just didn't really read many short story collections or novellas this year. So moving on to number 7, Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. Once again, I'm just going to go ahead and divide this into fiction and non-fiction because I love both genres and I have an answer for both. So for fiction, I'm going with A Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Mara. This is a novel about the conflict in Chechnya, the sort of kind of ongoing conflict there relating to Russia's dominance over that country and the people wanting to be independent there. And I think a lot of people would love it because it's just a really well done story with great characters, lightning dialogue. That story is extremely emotionally affecting, which I think makes it very accessible. But the characters are just so real and fun and funny, even though it is also a really sad story. So I think a lot of people would like this novel. And then for nonfiction, I'm going to go with Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Catherine Boo, which is about a group of people living in a slum near Mumbai in India and their everyday lives in this slum. And I think this is a book that just explores such important themes of what it is to live in poverty, at least in this part of the world, but I think it applies to other parts of the world as well, and just how people deal with it, right, in good and bad ways. And I think it's accessible too because of the way it's written. It's written kind of in the style of a novel, so Catherine Boo kind of puts dialogue in people's mouths and occasionally even puts thoughts in their heads, sort of, so she writes it a bit like a novel, which can be a hard sell for me in terms of what I like in my nonfiction, because I would prefer nonfiction to succeed as nonfiction rather than trying to masquerade as a novel because the author perceives that will make it more accessible or interesting to people. And it also strikes me as a little bit disingenuous, right? Because there are scenes here that Catherine Boo could not have been around for, so the dialogue kind of, is made up. But if you're okay with that kind of a style, then I think it probably will make the book very accessible. And given the importance of the subject matter and how well I think it's handled in the book, I'm willing to forgive that sin of the book as I see it. Other people don't see that as a problem, but I sort of do. So that's my nonfiction choice. Number 8 is Specialized Appeal, a book you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. And again, nonfiction and fiction. So for fiction, I'm going with Njál's Saga, which is not fiction in the strictest sense of the word. It's a saga, so the events sort of did all actually happen. They're based on real events. The book is kind of a chronicle of real events with some fantastical elements thrown in, but I put it as fiction because it is still sort of a made-up story with embellishments, and it's written to a degree in the way of a novel, that's at least in prose, and it's a story. And this is basically a long family saga from Iceland, and that explores revenge and a cycle of revenge that goes on for decades and decades. And I don't think a story like that would be to everyone's taste, right? And because the book is not written like a novel, but like a chronicle, I think that might be tough for some people, because some people want the structure of a novel, the, rising action, climax, resolution, and such. But this book, this saga doesn't have it. It's just a chronicle where things just sort of happen in the sequence that they happen. And there are great characters, there are really interesting themes that are explored in really powerful ways, but it's not written in the traditional structure of a novel, so I don't think it would be to everyone's taste. And also it's very dark, so not everyone likes dark stories, but some people do, like me. And then the nonfiction book is Prague Winter by Madeleine Albright. This is kind of a memoir and kind of a history book. Madeleine Albright was the first female Secretary of State in the United States, but she was originally from Czechoslovakia. She was actually the daughter of a Czech politician, a prominent Czech politician, and so she was present, actually, sort of in her youth for a lot of big events, sort of, not exactly present, but close to them, right? Because she was a little girl, so obviously she wasn't involved, really, but she was near them. And the book is sort of kind of a broad history of Czechoslovakia, and in particular of Czechoslovakia during World War II. And it's also kind of a memoir of Madeleine Albright's family and her own early life, and their escape from Czechoslovakia after World War II when the communist regime took over. And the reason that I think that this is sort of specialized appeal is because I wouldn't say it's the best written book ever by any means. It's not badly written by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not eloquent, it's not super gripping, it's good, but it's just not, it doesn't go that extra mile to make it great. The reason I found it so interesting is because my dad is from the Czech Republic, so I'm half Czech, and so the historical events that she's narrating are things that I'm just very interested in, as per the fact that they happened in my own dad's country of origin. And so it's a specialized appeal in that sense, and I would hesitate to recommend it to just anyone, because it's just not the best book, but I found it very, very interesting, and you might be seeing the cat in front of the camera right now. Yeah, she decided to park herself right under the camera. All right, number 9, last question. This is, reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. Goals met, good or bad memories, favorite videos you made, so on and so forth. And this has been a slow year for me in terms of my booktube video making, because I've just lacked a lot of motivation. It's been a very long year for a lot of us, and I'm no exception. I have been telling people that I feel like I've been 27 for like 10 years, and not in a good way, in a way where it feels like this year has just gone on forever, because it's just been a tough year with world events and with my own mental health and such. You know, I won't go into that, but my mental health has not been in the best place. And so I've just lacked a lot of motivation for making booktube videos this year. And so there were long stretches where I went without making any videos. You know, I went for, I think, several weeks without making a video at a few different points. And I've never done that before. I've always prided myself in a way on being a very consistent booktuber, on making videos consistently. And I sort of dropped the ball on that this year. And I'm not saying that as this sort of mea culpa, I'm ashamed or something, but it's true. You know, I really, it's the first year where I felt my motivation for booktube struggling a little bit. And so I haven't made as many videos as I usually do. And that's unfortunate. But I feel like at the end of the year, I've started to get my mojo back, and that's why I'm doing Vlogmas right now. Another big aspect of this year that I regret is the very short life of my Sunday miscellany videos. For a while on BookTube, I was doing these videos called my Sunday Miscellany, and that was a Sunday video where I talk about what I read that week, but also what movies I've watched and what music I'd listened to. And they were really fun to make. There was a small, you know, sect of my viewership who loved them. I was really happy with how they were turning out, but I stopped making them because they were just a lot, in short. They were just a lot to make. They took a lot of time. I sometimes had to attempt to shoot them twice, you know, because that always happens with booktube videos sometimes. But they took a long time to shoot, you know, because going through music and books and movies takes a long time, especially when you have a lot to say about certain things. And then I had to edit them, which took a long time, and then I had to upload them, which took a long time. And they were often very long videos, and so they just took a lot of time and a lot of energy. They usually took most of my Sunday morning up, and that was just a lot of effort to put into videos that only a very small proportion of the people who watch my channel seemed interested in. And I don't mean to complain or anything like that, but it's just true that those videos had a very small audience, it seemed. Not everyone who watched my channel watched those videos, it seemed. The people who did watch them really loved them, but it was just a lot of effort to put into videos that not very many people were watching. And I know, again, number of views, number of likes, and so on should not be the primary metric by which we judge our videos or our content. But it did just boil down to, this is too much effort every week for the amount that I'm getting out of it, you know? And so it's unfortunate that those kind of came up and I was really excited about them and then they just sort of died, but it happens sometimes. I like to think of my channel as forever being a work in progress. I feel like I'm always having new directions I want to take it, new kinds of videos I want to make, you know, new approaches to video making, and I feel like I'm always sort of trying different things out and never quite landing on one or another as the thing I want to keep my channel as. I do have a lot of admiration for booktubers who can make very like standardized content. You know, people who always post a wrap-up at the end of the month, who always post a Friday Reads every week, who make an entire video about every book that they read, who do a tag every Tag Tuesday, you know. Those sorts of booktubers, I have a lot of admiration for being able to do that kind of regular standardized content. But I just don't think I'm ever going to be that kind of booktuber. I think I'm always going to be kind of changing and needing to do a new thing and having new ideas and getting bored with old ideas and such. I think that's just how I am. And I think that's fine. Again, I'm not doing some sort of a mea culpa routine. That's just the kind of person that I am. And then I do want to talk about some videos I have made this year that I am really proud of. So let's get into that. Some more positive things. So the video that I am most proud of, I think, is the video I did on Moby Dick as science fiction. I made a video talking about the novel by Herman Melville as a work of science fiction. And I had so much fun making that video. I got so many great comments. I think the video turned out great. I got some just great responses, and it just got me thinking about science fiction as a genre, and I think has really finally, at long last, spurred me to become more of a science fiction and fantasy, to a lesser degree fantasy, reader than I was before. So I'm really happy with that video. Another video that I am really proud of is a book review video that I did of The Evidence for God by Keith Ward, where I basically just spent 15 minutes trashing that book, which is terrible, and I just love how it turned out. Again, I think I made my points in the video relatively well. I got some great responses in the comments section. I'm happy with how that video turned out. It was a difficult video to do, but it turned out well, I thought. And then some other videos that I'm really proud of are 3 videos that I made. I started this series, and this is, again, goes back to how I tend to have these new ideas that I want to do that might not always last that long. I had this new idea to do this series of videos called Possessed by Poems, where I memorize a poem and then recite it in a video. And I kind of still want to get back to doing that. You know, I know I didn't make a set schedule for those for a reason, because I knew that if I tried to make myself do that once a month or once a week, it would just become too much. But I do sort of want to keep doing those. But I did 3 videos. I did one on Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, one on Shakespeare's Sonnet 60, and one on Psalm 23 from the Bible. And I loved those videos. I loved doing them. I loved the experience of memorizing poems. It was just a lot of fun. And again, they don't have super wide appeal, with good reason, but the people who did watch them seem to really like them. And so I'm happy with those. And then finally, I also want to give a big shout out to the Shake-Tember discussions that I did with my co-hosts, Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Rainy from Rainy Day Reads. We did discussion videos over Zoom of the Shakespeare plays that we read for Shake-Tember, and they were so fun and insightful, and I hope that we do Shake-Tember like that again next year. For the record, I'll say that on the record just in case it doesn't end up happening, but I had so much fun, and those discussions were just wonderful. And so I want to give a shout out to those. And I will leave links to all of these videos that I've mentioned if you want to check any of them out. And then the 10th question is to tag some fellow bookish content creators. So I'm not going to tag anyone in particular. I wanted to do this tag to put it on people's radar again, because Adam created it back in 2018, and a lot of people did do it, but then no one did it the next year. And so I wanted to put it back on people's radar, because I think it has some really great questions. So if you want to do it, please do it, because it's a really nice tag. But I will leave everything at that. Thank you for watching if you made it to the end, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.